I don't think it will change like that. But when you think about the actual areas that we're talking about, right? I mean, the idea is to create, again, more density in our communities, and we have to do that in order to provide that housing that's necessary, right? And so what we do here is we spread out like this. I mean, I'd love to build an extra story on top of my house, right? The houses in my neighborhood don't look like that, at least not right where I am. Now, if you go around the corner, some of them are more two-story, right? And so if that impacts that area where we're able to build differently, because when people build in certain areas, they try to match what that community looks like already, match what those houses are looking like. But as I drive around the city, I see a lot of difference anyway. So it's like, how do we do better and be able to accommodate the need in our community? So it's going to change. It's going to change how we live and who we are. Like, I was just talking to my daughter who lives in Chicago, right? I love going to Chicago. I love looking at all the buildings and the stores and the businesses and the restaurants and all that stuff. And we don't have that in our neighborhoods like that, right? You've got, they're few and far between. And I sit back and think about, how will our neighborhoods look if we can begin to start creating more space, living space for people, but then also creating more business in our communities. Well, you got to have people in areas for businesses to want to be there.
Yeah, in Grand Rapids I see it often where it's business districts in different areas of the city, but it's not necessarily mixed in.
Yes.
Really with the residential.
And I'd love to see that. I mean, I'd love, where I live, I would have to walk, I think, about a mile and a half to get to, a little coffee shop, or somewhere I might want to go buy fresh bread in the morning. I have to drive because there's nowhere close to me. I would love to be in a space like that, where I could just, if I had a dog, walk my dog down there and grab me a cup of coffee, but I don't have a dog, so.
So just walk yourself?
I just walk myself.
All right, well, thank you for that. Thank you, William, for including that question in your documenter's notes. So our next question is from Lily, who asks, are there concerns that additional bus shelters will provide places for homeless folks to keep their stuff?
And
this could be a question for either of you.
I feel some type of way on either side of that, right? Our unhoused community, if you've never had lived experience in that space, you don't understand the mentality, right? So I look at it from two different perspectives, in having that lived experience and just want to be safe or feel protected, and sometimes people feel like, well, we have shelters and this, that, and the other. Well, if you've never been in one, it's real easy to say that, right? And we don't know what people's needs are, right? Because we have people with mental health needs and other things. Nobody really chooses to be homeless, right? And then there's a number of factors that play into that, and not being able to have that stable place of your own. But I don't, the bus stops have changed. If you notice, a lot of them don't have shelters anymore, and they're just seats. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. I don't think it's going to increase that. I think once we start to increase our ability to have more density and more housing, we'll see more people being able to be housed. That's my hope. We have the mental health providers that have stepped in, and they're coming up with some really creative ways to help our unhoused population. And I think we're going to, like I said, see a lot of change in our community. And it's not going to be easy, but change is good.
And I would add that I think that it provides a secured coverage area for folks that do choose to take transit or that rely on transit. And we can only become a more transit-friendly city if we're providing not just the routes, but also better amenities for the riders. And that will drive the greater demand for transit riders. So.
Yeah, no one wants to sit outside in the rain.
No.
Or the snow.
I certainly don't.
Or the snow.
Absolutely.
Or the beating down sun.
Correct.
So I understand. This next question is from Theo. Theo wants to know, how does the city work to improve accessibility downtown? I'm a cane user and have had trouble navigating parts of downtown. Is there a place I can report issues?
Absolutely. Anytime you have issues with anything, you call 311, and they will connect you with the proper departments, or you can always contact your commissioner, and we escalate the issue to the proper departments, and then we do the follow-up to make sure that they're checking into that. There was someone recently that reached out and asked about the benches and the little arm handle things that are in between the benches, and wondered why those were there, right? And that, there were a person that couldn't walk long distances and sometimes had to sit down, and that was very uncomfortable. I totally understand that, but that was a question that she asked us, and we were able to reach out to the right departments and try to get some answers for them that help people. The answer may not necessarily be what you want, but we will definitely try to get the best possible answer to answer whatever that situation may be.
So for Theo, reaching out to 311 what would be the department to talk to about accessibility with sidewalks for folks that might have a hard time navigating those sidewalks?
Well, 311 would be the best place to start. It'll get routed accordingly. I do want to also add that Downtown Grand Rapids Inc., DGRI, has partnered with the Kent County, or the Disability Advocates of Kent County, doing an accessibility audit in the downtown area. And then once those results are finalized, and we'll be elevating those up to take a look at it. We've recently, for folks that are sight impaired, we did recently install an audible pedestrian countdown at the intersection of Lyon and Ottawa. There's already one at Division in Fulton. So it's thinking about users of all different abilities in the downtown, but definitely through 311 is how you would report either sidewalk impediments or any other concerns that you would have, and it will route accordingly.
Great.
And just to add to that, I want to encourage them to do that, because sometimes people think that, the city is like this all-seeing eye, and so they know everything, but we don't, right? And if we don't know, we don't know. So I would definitely encourage you to reach out and call and report it, and then that information will, as you said, get routed to the right person, and we will try to see what we can do to best help.
Great. 311, that's usually the answer for a lot of these. 311.
311 is my answer. I call them.
I hope we have enough time to get through one more question. If not, the next segment we'll take more of these questions. So this one's from Kim. Kim wants to know, or has something to say. We just had a bike lane added along our road, and there really wasn't enough room there for traffic and bikes. I'm all for adding bike lanes whenever they make sense. How is it determined what roads need bike lanes, and how feasible is it to add lanes there?
So there is, through the Michigan Uniform Traffic Control Device Manual.
I'm sure that it has a great acronym.
Yes. There is a standard for lane width, as well as sidewalk width and any bike lanes. So all of the streets, sidewalks, including bike lanes that are in the city, follow that uniform traffic standard. So that's how it was determined, again, aligned with our bicycle action plan that I talked about earlier. So if it is identified as a road where we want to make that connection and we can meet all of those criteria, then that's how they're selected.
Perfect. Great. Well, I believe now we are at time. When we come back, we will be taking more questions from viewers at home. So stay tuned.
It's morning in Grand Rapids. Do you know what's going on in your city? Stay informed about what's happening in your community with The Rapidian, your source for hyperlocal news and information. The Rapidian is a community-focused news source powered by local residents like you. Our volunteer writers and reporters create content that hits close to home about topics like local government, business, schools, events, and people. The Rapidian goes beyond the headlines to provide in-depth coverage of issues that affect Grand Rapids directly, so you can stay in the know. We aim to uplift the community by sharing positive, inspiring stories of growth, progress, and neighborhood pride. The Rapidian is your neighborhood newspaper for the digital age. Follow us on our website and social media to stay connected to your community. This is The Rapidian.
Welcome back to City Connection. Thank you so much to Jennifer for joining us and giving us some insight into the world of mobility here in Grand Rapids. We still have Commissioner Knight here with us to give us some more insight from City Hall and to answer some questions from all of you at home. This first question upcoming is from Paul. Paul says, I attended the last commission night out and it was great to see everyone there and to see the engagement. Can we do more of those? Having one a year in our ward doesn't feel like enough.
Well, Paul, thank you.
What a great problem to have.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Wanting more time.
I don't know if we can have more commission nights out during the year, and it's good to hear that people are enjoying it and want to engage. I just don't know how to answer that because I'm not the one that plans them, Paul. But I can definitely ask that question. It takes a lot, just so you know, to really mobilize one of those nights out. I mean, all the equipment and everything that they have to bring to make that happen. But I would encourage you to connect with your neighborhood association because a lot of times we are out at a lot of the events that are happening within our neighborhoods. So I'll throw that out there for you, and hopefully we'll be able to engage with you at some point. Thank you.
And I will say you're allowed to still go to the commission night.
Absolutely.
In other wards. Excuse me, I have to cough.
Absolutely. Yes. So you don't have to just go say, oh, it's in Ward 1, I can only go there. You can go to any of them. So there's 3 of them at least per year. So there'll be one in the 2nd ward, there'll be one in the 3rd ward. So you are welcome to come and engage at any one of them. They're not limited to where you live.
No one's checking street addresses when you
not
walk
at all.
This next question is from Brian. Brian says, I saw GRPD is recruiting. What are the qualifications needed to apply, and are there physical requirements?
There are physical requirements. What GRPD is doing is working with Grand Valley State University for training of new recruits, as well as with GRCC. And they run a really, really good program. One of my sons actually went through GRCC through the training as a cadet. And I know that their newest group of cadets was really diverse, and we were really excited about that. And so I would call or email down to GRPD. I'm sure it's on their website or on the city's website, and get that application if you're interested in it. I can't tell you what the physical requirements are, but I know I will not be going for it. So
this next question comes from Amber. Amber says, I was impressed with how quickly the city fixed the water main break. Were there extra costs incurred to fix it that quickly? If so, where does that money come from?
There's always going to be extra costs in repairing something, and that money comes out of the water department fund. So there's money that's built into different budgets for the different offices within the city. And so they have that funding that's built in there to repair it. I'm not completely sure what actually happened as of yet. My thought is that it was probably due to age. And they were able to get in and get that repaired really quickly. We were really glad that they could get in there and get that mobilized. So, yep, it's not coming out of anything extra. You're not going to get a bill for that extra repair. It's something that came out of the budget.
And I do know that there are other water lines in Grand Rapids that are planned to be repaired or replaced due to age. So that's already in the process. And I believe we have time for one more question. So this one is from Millie. Millie wants to know, is the cause of homelessness that there aren't enough houses? We've been talking about this, so perfect. It seems like providing access to jobs is more important to getting people off the streets rather than just making more places for people to live.
The cause of homelessness is not because there's not housing. The cause of homelessness comes from a number of different things. You have, again, people who are dealing with a lot of mental health issues. We don't have a state hospital where people can go that have those issues. And so it's connecting with those people and it's getting them the services that they need so that they can become stably housed, right? There are, yes, an abundance of jobs, but if you're dealing with a number of mental health issues, it's really hard for you to maintain a job when you have fears and worries about other things that you may be dealing with. The other part of that is income, absolutely. We have noticed that inflation has gone up and costs have gone up, but people's wages have not, right? And that's across the board. Just today, I believe in California, they were celebrating that the minimum wage for food service workers went up to $20 an hour. And that seems like a lot of money, but not when you're living in California, right? So you had a young lady who was making $17 an hour, but she was also helping take care of her parents who had some health care issues, right? And they were living in a one-bedroom apartment. So she's hoping that those extra $3 could just, help squeeze it out a little bit more. Families are struggling across the board, but if employers are not paying money or that wages are not keeping up with the growth of the community, it's really difficult. So you have families that are working good jobs, but that income may not be enough to sustain that household when the majority of your income goes towards paying your rent, your overhead costs, childcare, and transportation, right? And that's a lot. And so you have families that have pockets of scarcity, and everybody's scarcity is very different. And they're trying to take care of their homes and they're trying to take care of their kids and provide for themselves. But we also have single people who are working decent jobs but are living in their cars because they can't afford the cost of rent. And so it again, it's a multifaceted situation that we're in that's going to take multiple different avenues to try to get us to a safer place for people in the community. And it's not easy by any means. It's just not. But again, as we continue to think and be creative around what the needs are, and this didn't just come up in the last couple months, right? This is a conversation that's been going on for years. We didn't just get here. It's been building and building and building. And then the pandemic exacerbated what that was for people, right? And so it's going to take some time to get us in a position where we're able to help in multiple facets, right? Helping people get whatever job training that it is that they need so that they can get a better paying position, a better job that's able to supply the things that they need in their home. But all those things don't happen overnight.
Right.
It just doesn't.
Unfortunately, if there was just one reason for homelessness, I'm sure it'd be a lot easier to find a solution.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your insight and answering questions from not only myself, but from the community. Yeah. It's very helpful to have these conversations and break down that curtain, rip down the curtain.
That's it. Tearing the veil.
Right. Well, that is all the time we have today. So thank you to our guests for coming in, and thank you to all of you at home for tuning in and sending in your questions. Don't forget, you can always watch rebroadcasts throughout the month of April on cable GRTV's Channel 25 or on the GRTV YouTube page. See you next month.